Morning staff, morning boys. Friday morning, the 12th of June, and it happens to be my son's birthday. He's a long way away, he's in sunny England. And here we are at the Ridge. Well, you not, you're still at home. Some of you are here, grade 7s are here, but those who are at home are waking up in the warmth of their own homes on a very, very cold 12th of June this year. Temperature outside is around about 0 degrees. Temperature in this hall is close to 0 degrees, so it's chilly. But here's what I'm telling you this morning. I'm telling you a warm story. I'm telling you a story about blankets, and about 67 blankets for Mandela Day. That's the story. That's what we're involved in this morning. So stay tuned in, won't be long. And then I want to call two very special people up on stage to spend some time with me, and we can honor them and speak a little bit about them when they're on stage with me. I want to do a Bible reading first, and then we'll go from there. So listen up as I read from God's Word. It's from Matthew chapter 25 and verses 34 to 40. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you? When did we see you thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you as a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothing and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison? And when did we go and visit you?" And the king will reply, "Truly I say to you, whatever you did for one of the least of my brethren and my sisters, that you did for me." Very powerful, very, very powerful, that verse from Matthew 25. And it's powerful, boys, because at a time in the world's history when people need to be reaching out to each other across the great divides that separate us in so many different ways, we need to be reaching out in ways that don't judge, in ways that show respect and understanding of another's situation, and in particular, of another person's predicament and circumstances. And a year ago, during Centenary, when the Ridge School, the family of the Ridge School got together and enjoyed an action day. You remember that action day? It was the 2nd of June last year, and we got together. It was a Saturday, and we went out around Johannesburg, and we enjoyed an action day together. And something happened on that morning. A lot of things happened, actually, but one thing in particular happened on that morning, and that was that a seed was sown whereby members of our community understood the blessing of what blankets could mean to those in need. Now, right now, on this very, very cold June day, a year later, we understand what a blanket can mean. And all of us have got up out of a warm bed. We've had blankets to keep us nice and warm, and we're able to appreciate what a blanket actually can mean. But there are many, many thousands of people around South Africa and elsewhere right now who are waking up and they have nothing, no blanket, nothing to keep them warm. And so this morning is about the wonder of a project, a challenge that was picked up by the Ridge School, the seeds sown from elsewhere, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment or two, and how over the course of the last year, blankets have been made by members of our community, by mothers, by grandmothers, by aunts, maybe even a few uncles, and by even a few boys, certainly a few sisters as well, I'm sure. But we have here a display of blankets, 76 blankets. So we've turned the 67 and we made it into 76. 76 blankets. And then they're going to go to the 67 blankets for Mandela Day this year. Mandela's birthday happens on the 18th of July. And on the 18th of July, these blankets will be available to anybody who's cold and in need of warmth. Right. Let me show you a little bit more in the on the slides, and you'll get an idea from a very special lady about why this came into being, why this challenge came into being. Firstly, the great man himself. And one thing about Mandela were lots of things that really just drew him into the hearts and minds of people. But one of the things about Mandela that made him such an incredible human being was that he never stood in judgment. He was ready to forgive. And above all else, he was ready to love. And you can see that in the man's smile, the great man's smile. He loved at every opportunity. And people working with him always came away from the time with him more enriched, feeling that they'd been blessed by the contact that they'd had with this wonderful person. And they themselves were able to then go out and share their love, their energy, their enrichment, and their blessings into the lives of other people. And there was a lady who worked for him. Her name is Elise Lachranji. And Mrs. Lachranji, when she spent some time with him, realized that this great man wanted to bless people in unusual ways, but also in very practical ways. And so at a lunch date with another person by the name of Carolyn Steyn, they were having a lunch together, and Carolyn was saying something about, well, I would love to do something to help Mandela and to help the children of South Africa. And Mrs. Lachranji said, I tell you what, I'll challenge you, why don't you make 67 blankets for Mandela Day? And Mrs. Steyn was sitting there and she said, yeah, all right, I'll take that on. And then she forgot about it. And then the challenge came back to her. Listen what she said to me in an interview. She and I had a wonderful time, online interview earlier this week. It carried on for about 25 minutes. But what you'll see here is it's cut down to 7 minutes. But she's got a wonderful story to tell. Listen to the way that her story brings out the story of the blankets. Here we go. Right. Carolyn, welcome. Welcome to the Ridge. And thank you for being with us on this Friday morning. It's a virtual assembly, but it's an assembly that honors your role in bringing to life just the most amazing challenge for people. And the challenge being to make blankets. And particularly at a time like this, our boys here at the Ridge School understand what that means. When it's cold and it's winter, and there's so many folk out there who don't have the privilege of even one blanket. And we've got so many to share. But it's something that we, for the last year here at the school, have been applying our minds to. Some folk in particular, the families have got involved, even some of the boys have got involved, and they've made blankets. And so we've got to hand over to you at the end of the assembly 75 blankets. We'll do that in a virtual way. But we'd like to hear your story.
Mr. Stanley, thank you so much for welcoming me, and welcome everybody to the 67 Blankets family. You know, if you have partaken in a blanket in any way, put hook to wool, which I often do. Where's my crocheting? Here. And I'll tell you a bit more about this color a bit later on. Yeah. Then you're part of our 67 Blankets community, our family. So it started, 6 years ago, 6.5 years ago, December. It was, in fact, my husband's birthday, December 19th. Oh, right. And we had just lost Madiba on December 5th. Yeah. And Zelda was at the lunch table with us, and I was boasting about my domestic abilities, of which I have none. And she said, why don't you make 67 blankets for Mandela Day? The following year, Mandela Day being July 18th, Mandela's birthday. That's correct. And the last time I crocheted was when I was at school, at JP High School for Girls. And I realized I'm not going to be able to do 67 blankets on my own. I don't actually have 67 friends. So I put it out on Facebook, you know, to a huge community. Is there anybody out there that might be able to help me make a blanket? Yeah. Because I pledged 67. Well, I must tell you, the next morning, this was at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, a sort of light bulb moment, asking for help. And there were hundreds of people who had pledged a blanket. That's when I learned about hashtags, hashtag I'm in, hashtag let's do it, hashtag 67 blankets. And I've got to tell you, not in my wildest imaginings could I have dreamt of
Incredible.
all these that came my way. Every time I would, walk down the street, there'd be somebody saying, Mrs. Stain, where can we hand in our blanket? A little challenge, a simple idea,
Yes.
a ball of wool and a crochet hook have really snowballed
Amazing.
into what many people are calling a movement for good and for change in this world. And a lot of people, everybody I know wants to make a difference.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, including myself, didn't know how. How do I make a difference?
Yeah.
Which classroom do I go and paint on Mandela Day? And I've never painted in my life before. So a simple way of making a difference, stitch by stitch. Because a blanket, as we know, we take for granted.
Yeah.
But there are many people that we encounter with this movement, 67 blankets for Nelson Mandela Day, who don't have blankets, they don't have socks, they've got nothing. So the blanket is for life, and we are changing lives.
Well done.
And I thank you and the rich. Your students, your learners have been amazing. 67 blankets,
Just
and now
remarkable. It's wonderful.
75.
75, up to 75.
Congratulations, well done. You're going to change many lives as a result of putting hook to wool. And then I have to, before we go, talk about our very, very big project.
Yeah.
Stronger Together blanket, which looks like this. It's going to cover a rugby field at Sio Kolisi School.
Yes. Oh,
so
lovely.
it looks like that. I don't know if can you pick that up?
Yeah, got
Okay.
it. Fabulous.
So every pixel is a blanket in green and gold, measuring 160 by 160 centimeters.
Wow.
That's what I'm busy with here.
Okay. Oh, all right. Yes, yeah.
And then of course we've got our flag. We have to have our flag.
Yeah.
And the 2021, because this is happening, I think March, April next year at Sio Kolisi School in the Eastern Cape, Grey High.
Yes.
Engaged with the rugby union, and that we all going. We're on board.
Fantastic.
We have to do this stronger together. We're going to have our Boka there, Sio Kolisi. We're holding hands with at the moment with his outreach projects, with 67 blankets, and he's going to be there on the day. We're going to have amazing entertainment. We want the Ridge to be there.
We'd love to be there.
Fabulous singers,
Absolutely.
dancers, they come and be part of this amazing
Sounds
day.
great. Yeah, wonderful.
To show the world how we are keeping Madiba's legacy alive, stitch by stitch. So I'm so proud to have the Ridge with us in this wonderful.
Thank you for having it. Thank you for your dream and for sharing a dream and for sharing a challenge. It's lovely. When people have a challenge, they take on a challenge. It's nice to be a part of that challenge. So we ourselves can feel that we're actually making contributions. So thank you and well done to you. And I wish you well and God bless. And I'm sure we'll be in touch in the years to come. And next year in particular, as we get involved in Sia's blanket collection with a difference, I suppose. It's going to be something special.
Yeah. It's going to be very, very special. And as a result, thousands of people will be kept warmer.
Yeah, well done. Thank you so much. Well done to you. God bless you. And cheers, Gogoli. Those are some of the blankets that have been made by people around South Africa. But here's the thing. The project has taken off. It's captured the imagination of so many people worldwide that in Australia, Germany, United States, United Kingdom, Canada, New Zealand, all over the world, people are making blankets because they want to be part of this wonderful challenge that is the 67 Mandela Blanket Challenge. So here at school, we've become a part of that. We're not going to drop the ball on this because we want to continue. And you heard the challenge with regard to Sia's special blankets for next year. So we've got to be part of that. Mrs. Wallace, I take it that you're listening to that. And we want to pick that up and take it further. But one or two other slides to share with you. This slide was taken in 2017 above the Union buildings in Pretoria. There were over 8 11,000 blankets made for that morning and that day. And Mrs. Stein and her helpers put out those blankets, and it set a world record that a few months later was broken somewhere in India by a similar challenge. But you know what? Mrs. Stein and her colleagues and her friends got together and said, well, if the Indians can do it a little bit better, so can we. And they got together down in Cape Town and they put 11,500 blankets together to set a new world record, and it hasn't been broken. And that was in 2017. So that is a beautiful image of blankets adorning that magnificent Union Building Gardens, and the statue of Mandela right in the very middle. You can see him there. These are some of the children who receive blankets on very, very cold days. And you'll see the last slide will say, if you're cold, don't worry about it. Come and grab one of me. The blanket's talking. I'll get to it. Some of the older folk are also given blankets, beautiful, colorful blankets that people can come up and just take for themselves. Such an important gift. And the last slide, I'm not lost, talking the blanket, talking. If you're cold and need me, please take me. With lots of love, 67 blankets for Mandela Day. Isn't it an incredible challenge? Isn't it wonderful what people at the Ridge School have done during the course of the last year? And so the challenge now continues, because Mrs. Stein has said to us, now, with the winter, the cold winter that we have, she's shifting a little bit from the blankets onto scarves. And she's saying, why don't we make scarves? And she said to me, please tell your boys and tell your staff and tell your mums and dads to get going on knitting scarves. And scarves are quicker and easier to knit, I understand, than blankets are. So let's do some scarves. And at the right time, on the 21st of April next year, she's going to get together and she's going to take those scarves and a whole lot of other knitted garments, and she's going to put them on display somewhere. And then at the same time, down in the Cape at Grey College, she's going to be involved with everybody else in putting that magnificent Springbok flag together, made up of blankets, green and gold blankets. What an incredible project. Right, I've got to have two very important people to join me on stage. Come on, come and join me, please. Right. Mrs. Mafanisi and Mrs. Wallace have championed this particular blanket cause. They were the two in particular that were captured, with other members of staff, mind you, but these two ladies were captured by the challenge that was issued on the 2nd of June last year. And so Mrs. Wallace got together with a few of her friends and other members of staff and said, what do we do to make this happen? And she kept coming back and reminding people. She kept on the phone and on her emails and sending little photographs through to people to say, come on, you can do this. And she did a fantastic job. And Mrs. Mafanisi, she did an absolutely incredible job as well. She could, because these blankets, much of the time they were presented to the school in little squares. Little squares of beautifully knitted or crocheted, colorful wool squares. And she took them and she knitted them together. And she created the blankets that you're seeing in front of you. Probably, Mrs. Wallace tells me, probably 90% of the blankets that you see here were finished off beautifully by Mrs. Mafanisi. Ma'am, thank you very much indeed. And Mrs. Wallace, thank you very much indeed. The two of you have given so much to this project. It's come from the heart, it's come with love, and it's come to essentially and initially to the Ridge School in a way that we could never have imagined. 76 incredible blankets. So thank you to the two of you for driving the project the way that you have. And then from the school out into the greater community and really into the place of need, where children and other folk are able to appreciate the kindness and the generosity of the hearts of so many folk, and yours in particular, as they gather around and they take a blanket for themselves and understand the warmth of that blanket. So the warmth of the spirit that is the Ridge is then captured in the form of a blanket that is then shared into the lives of people who are then able to wrap themselves in that warmth. And there's a lovely symmetry to all of that. Boys, I know that you've enjoyed this. I certainly have. And I'd like to honor these two people. Thank you, ma'am. I'm not allowed to shake hands, so we'll do one of those. God bless. I would give you a big hug and a kiss, but I'm not allowed to do that either. Likewise, Mrs. Wallace. Thank you so much. Well done. Round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Guys, you've listened. I trust that you're still with us. I know you are. I'm about to finish off. But just remember that challenge is still there. And I would like to say to you Ridge boys, and I'm going to take it up myself. My wife does a lot of knitting and crocheting at home. I'm going to ask her to teach me how to knit and to crochet a scarf. And I'm going to join this particular crusade and this challenge. And I want to make a scarf that I can give to Mrs. Steyn as part of the Ridge collection. I hope you guys are with me on that. And a few of you dads out there as well. Let's get you involved. Final prayer and then we'll close. Loving God and Father, thank you for this beautiful morning, cold morning, but a morning because it's so cold that reminds us of the warmth of love that is generated at a school like this, the warmth of love that comes through people's hearts, people like Mrs. Steyn and others who are prepared to go out there and to champion this blanket cause in the world at large and here in particular in South Africa. Thank you for the work being done by so many wonderful people. Thank you for the blankets that have been made and the blankets that around South Africa can make the difference, the real difference, into lives of people who at this point are suffering because of the cold. And I'd ask, Father, that you would, in a very real way, distribute these blankets as you did through your Son with the loaves of bread, as the Bible tells us. So you distribute these blankets, multiply these blankets into the hearts and minds of people, and let them grow. And Father, I'd ask that you would take the warmth of this celebration, because that's what it is, this colorful celebration, and you would share it into our South African community. Bless these blankets as they go from here. Bless them as they go into the community. Bring warmth, comfort, and love. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks, boys. We'll see you next week for another assembly of some kind. Go well, God bless. Enjoy the long weekend.